Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Mandates, the show where my sister and I force each other to watch movies according to a monthly theme. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kelly.
This month on Movie Mandates, the theme is cars, but not Disney's. So I mandated Kelly watch Sorcerer, a magical movie that's eventually about navigating a truck full of nitroglycerin over 200 miles of uneven terrain. Yes. But before we put our reviewing pants on, it's only fair that since I mandated today's movie, Kelly gets to challenge me in a segment we call Trivial Trivia.
I'm wearing a dress, so this no pants for me. So we just watched a movie called Sorcerer, and for those of you who watched with us, you know that title just perfectly describes the movie. And I am completely laying it on thick that I have no idea why it's called Sorcerer, but because there is no like wizardy, sorcery, warlocky, witch type of magey guy. And so I came to think about, I'm like, I wonder how many movies there are that have like those one word, titles. No. We're good here. And I wonder how many of those actually.
I was thinking match. If I was doing Trivial Trivia, I could ask this, but that would be mean, and I'm afraid she's going to do it.
And here I am asking it. No,
yeah,
I'm actually not. You don't know where I'm going with this, and so instead of asking you to name them, I am going to. Yes, I know.
Because I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think I can do it on the spot.
Exactly.
Movies, so name 5 movies with titles that have nothing to do with the actual film. Steel Magnolias, it's about it.
And we just saw that. And only kind of, sort of, is there a reason behind it, but not.
There are magnolias in it, so.
And women are hard like steel. So I did the research for us, brother.
Okay.
I did the research, and I have found a few.
Oh, I think I know where you're going. This is much more fair.
Movies, and I want you to guess which one is the one that has nothing to do with the supernatural, magical, kind of like, think of this as an SAT question. Sorcerer is to sorcery as this movie is to what it proclaims to be.
Okay.
So, we have The Witch with Anna Taylor-Joy. We have The Conjuring. We have something that The Clairvoyant. Oh, Claude Rains is in that one. Idris is in a upcoming movie called The Alchemist. I went with Enchanted only because that's fun. Warlock with Julian Sands, who is still missing as of this time. The Wizard with Fred Savage.
The actor is gone missing?
Gone missing. Went hiking, cannot be found.
When was this?
January.
Oh, shit. I had not heard that.
Yes. Wizard with what's-his-face, Fred Savage, and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I already said The Alchemist, right?
Yes.
I did look for an Enchantress, and there are Enchantress movies. However, there's like a descriptor in front of Enchantress, and I'm like, I'm not going to go with those. So anyway, so we have Wizard, Warlock, Alchemist, Witch, Enchanted, Conjuring, Clairvoyant.
Enchanted is the one with Amy Adams?
That would be correct.
Okay.
And Dina Menzel is also in that movie. Just because
she is hilarious in that movie. Did you see Disenchanted?
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't.
I would not be opposed. It was on the list, but so are so many.
Yeah. Like Sorcerer was on mine. Okay, so
there you go. And I can go slow or
the problem is The Alchemist I don't know anything about.
That's fine. We can take it off the list.
Okay.
I just was excited that Idris is in it, and I love that book.
Okay, well, what's it about? What is it?
Alchemy.
Oh, is it actually about alchemy? Oh, okay. Well, The Wizard with Fred Savage, it has nothing to do with magic. Although it is clear it is referring to an alternate form of the word as being preternaturally gifted at something. Like a pinball wizard. So
Yes, but we are going for the. Woo!
So what's the list of movies again? Just do them
Wizard.
one by one.
Wizard with Fred
Okay.
Savage.
Nothing to do with magic. Warlock
Warlock.
is a demon, so that's
Yeah.
magic. That's a magical creature. There's actually, I think, 3 of those.
The Witch.
The Witch
The Anna
actually has
Taylor-Joy one. Yeah.
yeah. The Witch actually has a witch in it.
The Conjuring.
And Satan. The Conjuring is about ghosts. I mean, it's supernatural. It's not magic, but it is supernatural.
Enchanted.
Enchanted is magical.
Is magical. The Clairvoyant. Yeah. This is an old one with Claude Rains, our good friend.
If it's Claude Rains, it would be old, but I don't think I haven't seen that. I don't know what that's about.
Possibly a clairvoyant.
Possibly someone who's clairvoyant, but I mean, if it's about someone who knows things with his mind without ever actually being there to experience it, I'd say that's truth in advertising. So the clairvoyant could be it, but of the ones I know, the wizard is closest to a movie where the title doesn't exactly match its subject matter, at least when it comes to the magical portion of the definition.
I would agree. And you're correct, because the wizard is, just like you said, pinball wizard. He is just a savant at video games. Is
that Elton John in the
that it is.
Okay. Tommy,
can you hear me?
At least the film version.
Oh my gosh. What a
never seen a stage production of that.
No.
Unfortunately, they
do the beans.
Yeah, unfortunately they never yeah, unfortunately I rarely ever get to see stage productions of anything because they're rarely made available to watch unless you're sitting in the audience of the theater where it's showing.
Well, pre-pandemic, they did those at the movie theaters. Pre-pandemic, they used to have those right,
like Fandango events and stuff like that. Yeah, and that was wonderful.
That didn't come back though.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that, which I mean, I guess makes sense because everything went on hiatus and it might take a whole crew to get that kind of a thing back. But so yeah, the wizard. But yeah, all the rest, and I looked up. So the clairvoyant is about a clairvoyant, apparently. So there you go. Very exciting. But yeah, the first thing when I saw this movie and then finished it, that was my first thought. I was like, what a sorcerer. And I'm like, it's almost like the wizard being called the wizard. And then I was like, oh, there's a question in there.
I think it's the name of one of the trucks, but
it's not.
He painted it in French, so
I was gonna say, but it's not
like
Sorcerer
or something like that. I'm like, I guess that says sorcerer, and that's where the title comes from. I don't know.
And it didn't even in the English subtitles, like with those moments, like it didn't tell us what it said. I was like, well, dag nabbit.
I mean, at least I know enough Spanish that I'm not sure where I think Colombia is where this took place.
Yes.
I guess that's at least close enough to the Spanish I know, because I picked up a good chunk of what they were saying.
I seriously need to download Duolingo or Babbel or one of those. I really it's about dang time, Eisen.
I took 2 years of Spanish in high school and didn't learn a damn thing.
That's because our teacher, I don't think she actually knew Spanish.
It might be true. I mean, I learned to conjugate a few verbs. That's about it. Bro, do you even conjugate?
Do you conjugate, bro? So you gave a very good summary in like a sentence at the beginning of this recording about Sorcerer, that you said eventually it is about 4 men taking nitroglycerin across 200 miles of
uneven jungle terrain. Yeah.
And you're right, eventually did. I paused it quite often to be like, okay, are we going to start driving? Are we? I was like, what? And I look and I'm like, we're 40 minutes. Are we going to drive ever?
The inciting event that occurs that necessitates the dangerous journey does not happen until 51 minutes into the movie.
Yeah. And it's just a long setup. And it's interesting. So this is what I find interesting. So we'll get to the good part, the last hour in a moment. But the
For
luxuriating.
those who haven't seen it, it's a 2-hour movie.
Yes.
The last 50 minutes, 55 minutes is the actual journey.
Yeah.
The inciting incident happens at about the 51-minute mark. At about the hour mark, they start forming the plan that they're going to do, and they hit the road at about an hour 10.
Yeah. Dang. That's what I'm getting at.
So it's like Speed if you didn't get to the bus until an hour in.
Right. But the way that the thing that I find interesting is they take so much time to basically introduce.
What do they do for the first hour?
They're introducing characters, why they are in this weird that's probably not the greatest word to say. So these are all like con men. These are all people who have broken the law and are now like running from the law to Colombia. So this is almost like
the 4 main dudes like in the movie are all bad guys who got caught doing bad things but escaped and are now living in poverty in Colombia. So yes, they take a dangerous job to try and earn enough money and clout to leave.
So brothers, just thank you. I'm more of an emotional, like, let me paint you in a picture of how you're supposed to feel. And you're just like, let's just tell you what happened. But it's the problem is that they're I feel as if like a movie like this, right? A movie like this is the only reason to start this exciting part, or, to really not start what you kind of came to the movie for until halfway through, when you're talking about a 2-hour movie, that's an hour in. The only reason to do that is if you were really trying to set up a love for these characters, or a background that really makes you be rooting for them, or really filling you with just what it's like to live where they are. It's like the only reason to take that long is because you're really trying for the audience to just be with you, and we're not. At least I wasn't. There was no redeeming quality. I know that we talk about the redeeming qualities of the last film that I chose, where there was definitely none. This one, I actually feel like some of them are at least not. I mean, you don't like them, but you're like, you had reasons, because like the one is a terrorist, but like,
yeah.
And we never know why he did what he did. We're not really even sure.
No idea
Who his people really, like, what
it's
their reasoning
the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
I'm not sure which side of the fence he's on. I don't know that it actually matters, though.
Exactly.
But he's blowing people up.
But
he's a terrorist bomber,
if we don't know what side he's on, and again, I get that, like, we don't know what side he's on, because then it actually kind of takes a side, if they want you to, how they want you to feel.
Yeah, like I said, doesn't matter.
But also now you're just like, dude, you just blew up
a bunch of people just standing around minding their own business.
Standing around, and now I'm kind of like,
not on your side, bro.
I mean, you act the part well later, and you do, and like there are some very suspenseful moments that you're like, oh my god, he's about to die, and you do kind of, but like you don't go, oh god, oh, I really wanted him to make it.
It's more of that kind of empathetic reaction where you put yourself in that position. Sure. It's like it's because most all of us have experience driving. That's something we can relate to. So you can put yourself in those shoes to an extent. So even if you're not into the character or on the character's side, you can at least place yourself in the character's shoes and vicariously experience the drama and tension and thrills and suspense and stuff. But
So of our four men, we have the one who's a terrorist.
Mhm.
We have one who's, I guess, a hitman because
Yep.
he opens the entire
The
movie.
shortest vignette of the four.
Shortest-
And to be clear, the way the movie is structured is there's these four main characters, right? The
Yes.
first hour of the first 50 minutes of the movie is vignette one. Dude walks into apartment and shoots another dude and then leaves. It's like
That's
2 minutes. That's it. You do not see this guy again until Colombia.
Yeah.
Vignette two.
So it took me a moment, other than like the hat. I was like,
Yeah, it took me a moment.
Who shot the
I'm
guy
like,
at the beginning?
Yeah, I totally forgot about him because all of the other vignettes are like 10 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
That one's like 2 minutes. I totally forgot about him.
Yeah. All right.
And it actually took me, embarrassingly, I think it took me like into the third vignette until I was like, oh, I get what we're doing. They're all going to end up wherever this movie takes place. Okay, because I was like, what are we doing here?
Because I was trying to connect them through what they were doing rather than, oh, we're going to connect them later.
Right,
so I completely understand. Yeah. Because I also feel like, oddly enough, the filters or like the way it was shot, it didn't give the locations a different feel enough for me to be like, okay, we're just kind of, this is this guy's, we're, the kind of
different languages helped. I think Jerusalem was like the only title card. I don't think anywhere else got a title card.
Veracruz was the very first one, and then Jerusalem, and then
they're speaking English. It's America somewhere. So
I think it's New Jersey.
Yeah, I think so.
But
I don't remember a title card though.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
But I know it was Jersey.
And Paris, I don't think had a
Paris did not have one, I do not believe.
I don't think so.
No, I don't remember it having. You're right. I don't remember having one either.
Okay.
But so
so we start we've got a hitman.
We have a hitman.
who hit a man with a bullet, and then
I'm gonna hit you with my bullet.
It's like you're supposed to put in the gun first.
It works better.
I was like, this is the most inefficient thing I've ever.
You start taking them out of your pockets. And like,
how are my peers so good at this? It takes forever to kill someone by hitting them with a bullet.
I only shot them once. I had to do it several times.
Yeah. It's like I don't know what's up with my peers. They buy all these bullets. I've been using the same one for years.
Still good.
Still good. So we have the hitman. We have the terrorist bomber.
Yes.
Then we go to France, and we've got a banker who's defrauding his bank somehow.
There's something.
And gets caught, and his father-in-law isn't going to bail him out, and his brother-in-law isn't going to ask again, so he blows his own head up. By the way, this is an incredibly violent, bloodily violent, and profane movie for a PG rating. I know the PG-13 rating had not come out yet, but I was like, I'm surprised this is not R, because this is pretty bloody. And also, there's some F words.
It's very violent, and there's a lot of death. I was shocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I find him just to, I mean, I understand like the terrorist, but the thing about the terrorist, like his body count is the highest, and like to me that's terrible in its own way, but it's different because terrorists don't have a personal relationship with the people they kill. So although it's terrible, this French guy, like he's embezzling from his family and his wife whom he loves, and then he's at lunch with his wife. His brother-in-law comes to say like, hey, father-in-law, my dad, your father-in-law isn't gonna bail us out. And French guy's like, oh, just talk to him again, maybe. And French brother's like, and walks away and shoots himself in the head. And then French bad guy's like, well, dead brother-in-law, wife in the restaurant. I'm running.
Looking at jail time.
I'm just gonna run. I'm just like, all I could think is I'm like, you just left your wife to find her dead who she had no idea her brother was even there. She's gonna leave lunch and then walk outside to where there's and it's obvious, it's right up. And I was just like,
oh yeah, he painted his brains all over the back of that car window. So yeah,
what an like that's like
Bruh,
Wow,
dick move, bruh.
that's a dick move, bro. But anyway, so he's a dick. Please continue.
So there's that guy. And then we move to Joyzy, where Roy Scheider is in a gang who knocks over a bingo hall that's owned by some mafia family.
Running out of a church.
So he he crashes the car that he's driving because there's squabbling in the backseat. He's like, "Don't make me turn this car around," and then he flips the car.
Come back there. Yeah.
So the police are showing up, and the mafia want him dead because he knocked over their bingo game, and one of the like his nephew who runs the bingo game got shot in the leg or something like that. So he has to run to Colombia too.
I will always laugh about all the shows that I watch that have like mafia in them, which I do. I love shows like
I have never seen an episode of The Sopranos.
No, neither have I. But I mean, I've seen a lot of shows that, I mean, I've seen Scorsese films, like even freaking Ozark, which is incredible, like has, mafia and stuff. And I think it's these people, again, it's so interesting. They'll kill anyone. And they're in the game knowing that death is very much a part of a possibility. And yet you do kill their nephew. And it's like, so I'm like, you guys are always going to be mad at each other then. Like that's
it's the cycle of violence.
Because then you're going to kill that guy.
And it kills and then his dad's
going to be, because then his dad's going to be, oh, well, now you just killed this guy. So now we're going to, and it's just a back and forth. Like, just, I'm like, either care about life or don't care about life. You can't have it both ways. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess you can if you're in the warfare.
Or you play the Yakuza games, now called Like a Dragon, because very few people actually kill anybody ever. Everyone just punches each other in the head until they become best friends. They work out their differences with their fists, and they're like,
"That's how guys do it. That's how guys do
it." I see what you're saying now. Let's go out for beers. It's like, oh, okay.
Guys, we just got to punch it out. I don't get it because girls have to be petty for a very long
got to be shirtless too. Gotta throw down without a shirt.
Of course.
None of that really.
If there's some baby oil nearby, fine.
that's all right. I gotta oil up first, like that scene in the transporter. With
I only think I saw the first
what's his name?
Jason
Statham, yeah. Where he dumps a bunch of car grease and oil on the ground and puts on some bicycle pedals, the racing bikes that have the straps on them, so he can walk around on the oil. Yep, we remember that classic, The Transporter. I think there's at least 3 of those. I think he was in the first 2. I think they got someone up, maybe Scott Adkins or something for the 3rd one.
So, hi there.
Hi. Oh, it's Olivia.
Yes, it is actually Olivia.
Okay. Well, hopefully it says Jeremy crawling on the floor next to you for some reason.
No, we have this little angel who just wants attention from mommy. Okay, so here's what we have. Don't. So they're working in Colombia and they're fracking, correct?
They're drilling for oil, yeah. And I don't know if they're literally fracking, but they are drilling for oil.
Okay, thank you. They are drilling for oil, and
they are not making up a lot of. They're not making a lot of money. They're living in impoverished conditions, and they're not really enjoying life.
And one of the
it's hard work, it's low pay, and they're stuck.
Correct.
But they're also all bad guys, so
hey, at least you are free-ish and alive. So hey, but whatever. They think that they deserve an out. The point is, one of the wells goes boom, right? There's a fire in it, and it's burning up the oil, and they need to stop the fire. And the way to do that is by, doing explosions around it to cover it in, so then they can go and drill and, drink the
I think
milkshake
what that
from
does
somewhere
is it
else.
just blows all the oxygen away so that it starves the fire and puts it out.
Oh, I thought it like crumpled in on the fire and then they just drilled somewhere else to
No,
cap it.
I don't know
Oh,
what the
I
mechanics
guess
are,
your
but
way
I think they're
makes
just
sense. It's more scientific.
so they the oil place is on fire. It's the whole flame guys are shooting out of the ground. So they go over to a storage depot, which is like 200 miles away because you don't want that shit right next to that, right next to the oil.
No.
And they find out that the crates of dynamite were not stored properly and they're leaking nitroglycerin.
Right.
So they're like, all right, well, it'll still explode, and that's good, but you can't jostle it too much or it'll just explode. So we can't put it on the helicopter and take it over to the where it needs to be, and it's 200 miles away, so we can't just hoof it. We're going to need to take it by truck, but that's 200 miles of very narrow, uneven, unpaved, dirt, swampy jungle road.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to pay a couple guys to drive the people who are willing to risk certain death to drive these to drive two trucks because one of them's probably going to explode. Let's be real here. So they're like, all right, two trucks. So we need to hold auditions to figure out who the hell can handle a manual transmission rickety truck that probably doesn't have power steering across 200 miles of uneven jungle terrain. And hey, if you make it, you get 8,000 pesos or whatever the hell they offer. I think the France guy says you're going to have to double that and give us a passport.
Yes, that's what. So I think at the end of it, that's the agreement that it's like 10.
I think the check. I think the check
weird.
that full spoilers for a movie that's almost 50 years old. Roy Scheider survives, and I think his check said $20,000.
It did, which is what I didn't understand because I had heard 8 as well earlier, and then they were
And
like
double that
and
would
I'm
be
like, so
16,000 pesos,
16,
but I don't know what the hell the conversion was back in the mid to late 70s.
Because
so.
even so, to fast forward,
I don't know what it is today.
But there was a moment in the movie. So like, even let's just say that it's 10,000 a piece, because the math that they kept saying didn't make sense to me. So, but the first time in the movie when Roy and the hitman think that the other two have blown up, or no, they don't think they've blown up. They just think they can't possibly make it because there was a bridge involved.
Right. Yeah.
And he starts saying, he being Roy, the Jerseyan, he's like, oh my God, that's stubble, because they're not going to make it across the bridge. That's stubble. And all I could think of is, I'm like, that wasn't the deal, which is also why I think it's strange at the end when he does get,
you don't get their money, dude. You just,
because I thought about it. I was like, that was not part of the deal, because you guys would all just kill each other.
Yeah.
That's 100% what you would do. So I'm like, that makes no sense.
It's like, whether one person or all four of you get here, you all get the same amount of money. It's not like if one survives, they get all of it. That's not how that works, Roy.
So
I'm pretty sure that wasn't part of the deal.
Here's my problem with the movie.
Okay.
We'll just get right to it and then we'll talk through it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that this substance is so volatile, like
the nitro,
yes, I appreciate them going through the why they can't bring it on the helicopter, right? Mm-hmm. So I did appreciate that scene because it at least means that the writers thought about it, of like, these people are going to say, like, why didn't you just lift it over? And they even talk about like how they're not going to have it on the helicopter because of turbulence, and they're not going to air swing it because of also like turbulence, and they're like, it's just going to jostle. And he's like, you won't find a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to explode, so no one's going to fly the chopper.
And that's where the movie lost me.
In fact, no one's going to drive the damn thing. You're going to have to get these really desperate guys to do it.
Right. So that's where the movie lost me. I appreciated it, but I knew that they were in Colombia. I knew what the trucks that had zero suspension that they were going to be driving, and I was like, I was watching the movie and I'm like, thank gosh I'm not playing a drinking game, because like they drive and I'm like, dead,
Dead.
dead,
Dead. Because
dead.
the nitro is set up in a really nice scene where the depot manager is very
Yes,
carefully sticking
very.
his hand down into the dynamite and going like, ah, shit, it's leaking nitro. And he walks his hand out and he just drip. He like flicks his hand and goes bang, like those bang snap bangs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
if one drop of that thing goes pop, you drop this whole box, it's going to be a huge explosion. So it's a really nice demonstration of how dangerous this stuff is and how
Correct.
volatile it is.
And then they just throw it all away, because that's what got, because I and again, I also like there were things that I was like just so frustrated. So in the back of the trucks, they put these boxes.
Yeah, it's only three boxes
Three
of
boxes
dynamite
per
per
truck,
truck.
and they surround it by sand so that the box
Yeah,
doesn't move.
or
And I'm
wood
like,
shavings or something, or dirt or
yeah,
something.
or sand or wood. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, which is great, except liquid inside the box is gonna move. Like the liquid inside the box is gonna do this. So
I mean, it's not a. It's you think that it's the dynamite. It's not a box full of sloshing liquid. It's a box full of sticks of dynamite that are individually wrapped but are sweating.
yes,
Right. So
yes.
I mean, it's not
Okay,
really. So
fine,
I'm
it's true.
fine with
Okay,
it.
we're fine with that. Well, trust me, there's about
But I'll
800
get to
more
things I
times that
ain't
these guys
fine with.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Like let me. Okay.
go.
This is a movie that this is one of the. It's been on my list for a long time. This is a film that my list to watch for a
Of
long
course, of
time.
course.
When I first heard about it, whenever the hell I heard about it, it's oh, that sounds great. I want to see this.
Before
It's
you continue,
mhm.
did you watch the preview for it? Because before
The
after,
film's trailer. No.
that's, yes, thank you. So I watched the trailer after you and I chatted last week when you told me
Mm-hmm.
to watch this movie. I was like, all right, great.
When I
Um
mandated you watch this.
yes, you were like, this is must have. And then I was like, I've never heard of this movie before. So I watched the trailer, and the trailer starts with, from the man who brought you The Exorcist and The French Connection comes Sorcerer. Because it was one of those, it's, those kind of previews. I mean, come on, it's
Yeah,
77. It's the Voice of God previews.
sure,
And,
sure.
but you think to yourself, like the way that it's set up, and I do know the industry ish well, but well enough to know that just because the minds that brought you this, they might not have any idea that, they're part of a production team sometimes,
Mm.
So, but it was advertised as like, because you think this is going to be amazing. William Friedkin's track record. I mean, yes, give me Exorcist, give me French Connection, and then yes, Sorcerer sounds great. And then I watched the movie and I was like, this is why we don't know about it. Oh.
Although, while it's not a cultural touchstone, it is a movie that is very highly regarded by film buffs.
I was wondering how you even, because never even hit my like
Yeah,
periphery that it even existed.
the Leonard Maltins of the world are aware and fond of this film, right? It's not the first thing they're going to recommend, but if you talk about William Friedkin's career or uh, um, suspense films from the 70s, or if you start talking about car movies like French Connection or Vanishing Point or
Sure.
the Love Bug, you'll probably hit on Sorcerer at some point if you're talking to film buffs. And that's I don't know who or where I heard about it. It's just been one of those films I've been aware of for a long time and just really wanted to see it. And I was really excited to see this. I'm like, man, with a premise like this, I'm really excited to see this. This is going to be good, and it's not.
Oh, it's not.
No,
But
it's
what I
and I am so bummed out by how bad this movie is. Not to say that there aren't some really impressive sequences,
there
but it's
are
a
some very
bad
suspenseful
film
moments. There
with
truly are.
some stunningly bad filmmaking, mostly in the editing, which is like, what is going on here, Bill?
And
I don't know if he
sadly,
edited it, but
one of the worst editing moments was when they blew up.
yes,
I was like, oh,
with the dumbest
they died.
reaction shots I've
I'm
seen.
like, they're dead. They just blew up, right? That just happened. What?
I actually rewound. I'm like, oh, did that just happened? Yep. Oh,
And like,
okay,
I
sure.
get that they wanted it to be it's just that abrupt. They
And
hit a
in
pothole and it was just that abrupt.
they blew a tire, and
Yeah,
that's the
that's
end
right.
of it. And I like that idea. I think it's a great idea that just we got this far and suddenly flat tire and
They
just
were so
screws the whole thing.
yeah.
They were so close, and but it's done so poorly that it's almost laughable. But we'll get there. Here are my
Okay.
problems with the movie.
Thank you.
The setup.
Yeah.
50 minutes of individually setting up each character.
Yeah.
None of it matters.
No. No.
Nothing that happens, nothing, with one small exception, nothing that happens in the first 50 minutes of the movie informs anything in the last hour. It doesn't inform the characters. It doesn't inform their relationships. It doesn't inform why they'd be good at truck driving. It's like, why are these guys all really good at these janky trucks? Roy Scheider is the only, I mean, he's a getaway driver, I guess, but he's driving a sedan. He's not a truck driver. Why are these specific? I mean, you'd think that they'd have, I mean, it's not unreasonable that these guys just happen to know how to drive trucks, but nothing about the first 50 minutes of the movie sets that up. Nothing that happens even sets up, so doesn't set up characters, doesn't set up why they are the men for the job, doesn't set up their relationships to each other, doesn't even set up anything thematically, even though there are moments that I'm like, yes, movie, I'll write that down. That you're telling me that's important. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Like the French guy who the bank embezzlement guy, whatever the hell he's doing, he's talking to his wife, and she's an author, she's writing a book, and he's like, tell me about this book you're writing while I tie my tie and go rip off a bank. And she's like, oh, I'm writing the story of a soldier who is facing an ethical quandary as to whether he should follow orders and shoot a civilian or, don't. And he says, oh, that's really interesting, so what does he do? And she says, he shoots her. And he goes, so in the end, he was just a soldier. And she looks dead into the camera. No, not really, but she looks dead into the camera and says, honey, no one is just anything. I'm like, ooh, big thematic thing that's going to be important later. No, does not come up again, does not inform anything that happens in the movie. You think there's going to be something about like, oh, our terrorist bomber, we were against him because we just saw him as a person who kills people for political reasons.
Right.
And this theme is going to, this guy's a hitman, this guy is a gangster, this guy's a terrorist bomber, but this is going to come back later. With and inform, you don't judge a book by its cover. No one is just anything. We are not defined by one singular aspect of our life. Nope. Never comes up, doesn't inform anything, is completely unimportant. You could literally cut the first 15 minutes of this film, it would not matter a bit.
Which is,
you'd wonder what the watch is from, but
well, and I find the French guy, just the entire thing, so weird, because I feel like they put the most into that story.
Yes.
And
he's even got the engraved watch that his wife gives him. That's an anniversary gift.
He has a wife who seems to be, of all the people in the movie, a pretty well-rounded character. She's an editor. She's smart. She loves her husband. They've been together for 10 years, but she never knows what to get him. And she always talks about that. She's like, did I do good this time? I really love you. And she seems to, like, she comes from a lot of money, so they eat at the nicest places. And, but she's like a huge victim in this that just gets overlooked. The good news about all the other 3 vignettes is like the first hitman one, there's only 2 people and one dies, one's the hitman. In the terrorist one, the terrorists, like one of them, I think, caught
his comrades, a couple of them get killed, another one gets caught.
And he's the only one that escaped. So it's like, but they're all bad people. And then even in the Roy Schneider one with the New Jersey, he flips over the car, and I think one of them is still alive.
Yeah, so he's a bad driver.
Yeah, but like one of them has money all over him and is critically injured, and they're like, oh, these guys just robbed a bank, and the other one is full on dead. So it's like everybody that you have met is the bad guy, has their comeuppance, and then the one survivor goes to Colombia, except in the Paris one, where you have this wife who is inevitably going to find out that my husband is nowhere anymore. My dad probably doesn't have a lot of money, and my brother's dead in a car. And like, she's a complete victim. Like, I was so upset that they even brought her into the movie, because I'm like, at least just have the brother-in-law, or make her a fleeting moment in the morning. So fleeting, but they made her interesting, and it pissed me off, because they did give her that line. They did give her, like, she was supposed to be that moral character, and then they just,
and you'd think that
off.
He would, something dramatic and juicy and thematically informing would happen, where he would pass on what he's learned from his life experiences, where he went wrong, and he understands now, and he passes that on to one of the other characters, like Roy Scheider or something, with the watch, which is there but doesn't really do anything or symbolize it. I mean, it's like they just don't do anything. It's the movie sets up a bunch of stuff that has no bearing on the rest of the movie. It's weird.
So for me,
also, like, the hitman has no damn reason to even be there. He's not hiding out in Colombia. He's just laying over, and for some reason decides to drive a truck that could blow him up. Don't know why.
And like, not only does he decide, like, he so vehemently wants to drive the truck, that what we haven't told you is that he wasn't part of the first 4. Some just random other dude who we hadn't met other than in
once we hit Colombia. He's just a local dude that the terrorist bomber guy is buddies with.
Yeah, and he gets, and then hitman guy kills him so he says,
I'm on the team now. Trust me, I'm just as good as driver as he is. Are you?
Okay.
Okay.
You never see him drive.
Nope, he doesn't. He's passenger.
He's a passenger, and once he gets out to help,
but all 4 of them somehow are, well, except the hitman, but all 4 of them are expert drivers and mechanics, even though none of that is set up.
That's what gets me. So,
and I don't need it set up, but we have an hour of setup, and you don't set up anything.
Another thing,
nothing practical, nothing relationship wise, nothing thematic. The characters don't really even relate to each other or talk to each other. There's one moment where the terrorist bomber and the French guy start to connect, and then they blow up.
That was the only time in the movie. And that's when I thought this whole watch thing would come in, because he was talking about, like, oh, here's how I met my wife. And I'm like, we're going to have growth, guys. I'm going to go home from this.
Whatever. We're
so close. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to tell her everything, and I'm going to grovel at her feet, or what, like anything. But yeah, they start down the road and then blow up. And you're like, oh.
So my biggest, but again, I would be fine if it was just a fairly short 70-minute movie about 4 dudes who are impoverished in Colombia. And I mean, you could start there, and on the stretches of road where little is happening, they could
learn a little bit about
talk to each other, and we could learn their backgrounds to see what kind of people they are and what lives they've led and what led them to this point and what they think they're going to do in the future. character, drama, story stuff, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to do any of that. You can just have a tight, suspenseful movie. I mean, look at Duel, made for TV movie, Steven Spielberg,
Right.
probably late 70s, early 80s, Dennis Weaver, just a dude in a car being chased by some asshole in a truck. And that's pretty much the whole movie. We never learn anything about the dude in the truck. We do. It's just Dennis Weaver, and he's just a guy, just a guy. And that's fine. You can just do a suspense movie. That's fine. But if you're going to just do a suspense movie, all right, let's ignore the first hour of the movie because it doesn't matter.
Okay. Ignored.
So we have the last hour, which is the suspenseful drive through the jungle.
Right.
There are some great set pieces.
Yes.
There's a set piece where they're driving the truck across a very narrow corner on the side of a cliff that's been shored up by real janky looking pieces of wood. So it looks like something that's just going to immediately collapse and that truck's going to go. And the boards are all splintering and cracking and warping, and the tire goes down. They're like, oh, shit. Great.
Yeah.
There's the classic thing that's on the poster with the them trying to navigate the truck across a very janky rope bridge over and holy crap, what a just from a technical, because that looks like that was done practically.
Yeah,
there were a few shots that might have been miniatures, but that was a truck on a bridge.
That was insane.
That was insane.
It was insane. It was, and I think that was, for me, like you said, ignore that whole first hour, please. Excellent, ignored. And then maybe change a little bit of the ending, because this is also my thing that I find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they needed to figure out like what these people are carrying, why they're carrying it, so that we could, get to a thing. But where they were driving was so perilous that in my head, the cargo barely mattered. Like, I get
forget blowing up. You're just gonna die.
You're gonna die that's the thing. That's the thing that I find, like, I've never seen what is the mad world or whatever.
It's a mad. But I think there's 4 Mads world.
But isn't that like a race against time with
it's something? There's a hidden treasure somewhere. Some dude dies, and in his will he says, I've buried a treasure somewhere. Here's a clue, go get it. And it's just an excuse to have a bunch of comedians run roughshod over the country looking for a buried treasure.
Okay, because I was thinking, like, with this, like, the terrain is
long movie, but it's funny.
Okay, but
it's also thinking, not a tense movie. It's a comedy.
Have a conceit of time, though, is what I was saying, because like you have this 218 miles of just danger, Will Robinson journey. You didn't need to have a substance that the whole time I'm just like death.
Yeah, I mean,
so because it just took me out so often. Like when they're going across the corner, and as someone who has gone jeeping in Colorado, which zero hyperbole, I 100% thought that death was imminent for me. I was like, this is
where I die. Yeah,
I am going to die on vacation in a Jeep because I'm falling off this cliff. I will never Jeep again. So watching this movie, I was like, I understand just how scary.
And I'm wearing my cherry patterned underwear, exactly, which is my coolest underwear. So there's that.
Thank gosh, because you don't want to die in bad underwear.
That's right.
That's right. So yeah, it's
always wear your sexiest undies because you never know when disaster
is going to happen this day. Don't even own granny undies. No, but that's the thing, is that I really wanted more. And when you explained the movie to me and mentioned what it was about and everything, I thought that's going to be great. And they had the location, and they had a interesting, like, this is how we're gonna, but it was also not original screenplay, so it's not like
it's
there was
based
a source
on a book,
material. It was based on a book. I haven't read the book,
Well,
like,
I think it's actually a remake of an adaptation of the book. I forget what the original. There's a movie in the 50s. I think I haven't seen it. I can't remember what it's called, but I think I remember hearing that when Friedkin is like, no, it's not. I mean, it's not original. It's based on a book, but it has nothing to do with the movie that was an adaptation of the same book. Totally different thing.
Okay,
I have no idea, but but there's some great set pieces. There's the narrow mountain road that's shored up by janky logs. There's the bridge over the River Kwai sequence. There's a humongous tree that's just falling in the path, and like shit. There's the which way, there's the fork in the road and the sign that's down and they don't know which way to go. There's bandits on the road that hold them up and want to rob their stuff. It's like, it's just boxes of dynamite, you jackasses. So there's some great ideas here. The biggest problem I have is the editing. This movie, for some reason, has never heard of the concept of
score. Ugh.
Oh, you don't like Tangerine Dream or whatever the hell the band did? Okay. It's very 70s electronic score. I was fine with it, but modern ears, I think, would probably find it a little weird and distracting, but sure. For some reason, whoever edited this movie has never heard of tension and release. Tension and release. They skipped the release part because almost every single tense scene, as soon the frame that they're out of their tight spot cuts to a new scene, just hard cut to a new scene. Next morning, like the bridge scene, they're finally on the other side of the bridge and they're trying to get up over the last thing. There's a damn tree falling on them. The rope is fraying. They're about to jump into the drink. The tire is fallen through part of the wood. The wood's run away. The tire is slipping against the wood. They have the winch attached to a tree that's starting to uproot.
Yeah.
And are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Oh, God, it's so close. And it grabs and it pulls up, cut to a new scene. And you're like,
and they're fully on a road, fully on a road. Land on both sides and behind. They're like 15 miles away already.
Yeah, and they do that almost every single as soon as the tension passes, they just immediately cut to something else. It's like, what?
Yeah, there's no, you spend the whole movie going,
I bet the editor is a dude who has never, ever, not once, brought his partner to orgasm. He just finishes and leaves. That's what his editing tells me. That's the inference I'm making here.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah. Also, there's some weird stuff where so when we get to the fallen tree.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, we're going to use one of the crates of dynamite to blow up the tree. That's great. And they have to drive the trucks backwards to get them out of the way of the shockwave so that they don't blow up, which is great. And kind of a missed opportunity because having to drive the trucks backward up that trail seems like would be a great, it's like, well, if you cut out the first half of the movie, now you've got an hour. You got another 20 minutes to add, so have a part where they have to drive backwards. But anyway, they back up the trucks. They have to rig the whole system to get a timer with a bag of sand and a rock to blow the thing up. That's great. Cool. Yeah, that's wonderful. But here's the thing. Roy Scheider and the hitman guy are stuck in front of the log, and they're like, well, gosh darn it. The other two who had in the previous scene crossed the bridge just end up walking up on foot. And you're like, what happened to the truck?
Where's the truck?
And it's not till like 10 minutes later that you learn that, I guess the truck's fine. They just got out and walked into the scene for some reason. Maybe they just didn't have the truck on the set that day.
It looked like they were coming through the jungle at them. And then when they do the other shot, it's just, he's up the road, just parked up the road a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so
choices.
But then they blow up the log and suddenly the truck in the rear is in the front. Don't know how it got there. Don't know where or why they would have passed each other. What?
Yeah.
And they do that specifically because they want to blow up that truck, and they want Roy Scheider and the other guy to drive up on the yeah. And there's a whole bit where half of the road is missing, and it's like, oh man, how are we going to get past that? Apparently they do.
I don't know,
because that's not in the film.
Not sure. And then at the very, very end, Roy's truck dies at like 216 miles, and it's 218 miles.
He's got 2 miles to go. And at this point, the hitman guy got shot by one of the bandits who were raiding them, and he's dying. And they're trying to do a last minute. We're gonna personally connect now. I'm like, movie, it's way too late. We don't care.
No. Can we talk about what they connect over?
If you insist, sure.
The world's oldest profession.
Yeah.
They're like, that's what we're gonna do after this. And it upsets that. I'm like, no, that's not how you connect to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only reason I bring it up, like, I know you just said, do you have to? But the only reason I bring it up because that's how the movie ends. Well, is with Roy Scheider kind of following through with that. And I was like,
well, that's not what I got out of that. She's not a sex worker. She's just the barmaid.
But
I think, unless I was misreading it.
So that's what I thought. So I was like, she's the barmaid. At first, that's exactly what I thought. But then because he had that conversation and because he just got his check, and then they're like, so what are you going to do? And he's like, there's something I got to do. You know, will you wait for me? And they're like, take all the time you need. And he goes over and he dances with her. And I'm like, oh God. Well,
God. I mean, getting laid was the dying guy's wish. And Roy seemed to be more like, oh yeah, man, we'll get all the prostitutes in the world. La-di-da. But then he starts like essentially having anxiety attacks, like PTSD. I'm like, well, why? And hallucinating. It's like, this wasn't set up. What's going on?
Like, what is that? The whole ending with him, like, just recapping the movie kind of weirdly.
Suddenly he's having post-traumatic stress disorder over the car accident he got in and seeing his colleagues dead in the road. And it's like, okay, well, that hasn't been a problem the entire movie. Weird place to throw that in. So he's like, okay, my truck is dead. I'm going to hoof this box of dynamite 2 miles down the road to the end. And I'm thinking, why don't you just take 40 minutes and walk there and say, hey, can I borrow a truck? Truck died. Let's just go back and get the thing. That seems like a much better solution.
I was like, because when he looks at the odometer and it's like 216, and like he had written that it's only 218 miles, and it's 216 and something. So it's just under 2 miles that he has to go. I was like, that ain't bad. You can walk there, find someone and say, hey, I'm just 2 miles that way. Let's get.
I mean, you needed to find, if you want him to do that, you need to find some excuse that he has to manually carry the damn thing.
Exactly.
Like,
it had to be there at a certain time. Yet again,
had to be there at a certain time, or because it really felt like when you get there. I mean,
it did.
It's as fast as you can, please, but it's going to take a couple days. So
yeah,
don't blow up.
That was another thing. There was never any sort of like, crunch of like, they really got to get there. Oh, I would have gone so much slower than they went.
But they could have done some other stuff like having to back up, going the wrong way and having to back up. Maybe they could do a thing where it's like they don't know which way, so one goes one way, one goes the other, and they manage to meet up later, and they have different adventures instead of both crossing the same bridge.
So can we talk? So the fork in the road of which you speak. So
that's another thing. He's like, it's this way. And he's like, well, I'm going this way. And I guess they both just went the same way, even though the other guy was arguing that was not. I guess he convinced him that it was the right way.
That's what I thought. Well, and then I thought, because that's where I thought that was going to be. I was like, ooh, they're going to split up. And this is going to be like an even more interesting, like this terrain is going to be, more muddy, and this one's going to be lower and swampy, and this one's going to be higher and rocky. And I really did, like, I thought that right. I was like, ooh, that's going to be interesting. And then, but they also, so the fork in the road is like the first obstacle, which is interesting because they set the trucks 15 minutes apart. So just in case, the whole idea like that was orchestrated
If
that the
one
trucks
blows up,
aren't going to be
yeah,
next to each other.
right.
And yet the very first obstacle, the other truck is like right there in a moment. He's like, hey, I'm here already.
The
And then
second obstacle, but yeah.
Oh, was it? That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, so.
And I thought, the barmaid,
Yeah.
there seems to be some type of flirtatious relationship between her and
the Frenchman.
the French guy, the fraudulent banker guy, and she gives him some
Something.
token to remember him by. And Roy Scheider's like, "Hey, what's that?" And he just winks at him. That never comes up again. I thought there was going to be something like where he finds his body and finds what she gave him, and then he returns it, but no.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought he was going to her for. I was
like,
oh,
to return the thingy and say, I'm sorry he passed away. But no, he just dances with her. And then the mafia apparently tracked him to Colombia and comes in and shoots him. And that's the end of the movie. They all died. Okay. Done. I'm very disappointed in this film. I'm very disappointed. Disappointed!
I'm very disappointed.
Oh, well, mandate something better.
I hope I will. So, and I know that you know this. I was asked one time many years ago if there was only one actor, actress, performer whose oeuvre I could watch, and only their body of work could I watch for the rest of my life, who would it be? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I was asked, and I thought very hard of it. And my answer then, and my answer still to this day, is Tommy Cruise. Not because he has my favorite movies, but because his movies are always really good, enjoyable, fun, and he has them all. He has sports movies, he has romance movies, he has action movies, he has very weird, like he has Magnolia. Like, so I mean, like they're all Born on the 4th of July. This man does drama, he does epics like The Last Samurai, and he does car movies. I've never seen Days of Thunder, but we're gonna watch
neither have I. Okay, Days of Thunder. All right, cool. Speaking of which, if I were to, like, you can only watch movies from one actor, I'd probably pick someone who was just a working character actor who's in like 100+ movies, like Dick Miller or Udo Kier or something like that, who's just in a bunch of different movies, just for variety's sake. But
what I thought was funny about that comment that you just made is, so I told you at the beginning of the recording that I had Days of Thunder. So the movie that I was choosing, I had it open up here. John C. Reilly is in it.
Another good one.
Like, there's a man.
Not quite the same number of films as someone like the ones I mentioned. But
everywhere. That man is sneakily everywhere. So anyway, so Days of Thunder from what year? 1990.
Okay.
Not that there's another Tom Cruise Days of Thunder.
The other way. Yeah. All right. Well, today's episode may have come to an end, but Cars, but not Disney's, month continues next time with Kelly's mandated movie, Days of Thunder. You have to say it like that. If you'd like to watch it too, check out the description to see where it's currently streaming or available to rent. Until then, you can watch Movie Mandates on YouTube or listen to it in podcast form on iTunes. And hey, if you enjoy the show and want to help us reach a wider audience, engagement is key. So if you're watching on YouTube, like and comment. And if you're listening on iTunes, rate and review. Much obliged, y'all. And with that, I'm Andrew. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen.
I'm Kelly, and you can follow me at Get Isengard.
We hope you've all enjoyed this episode of Movie Mandates, and we'll be back soon with another mandated movie. Bye, everyone!